Hi, I'm Connor. I Can Relate, a podcast by teens, for teens, and about teens, is made possible by the generosity of Lisa McCares. Lisa McCares is a non-profit coalition organization focused on promoting healthy behaviors and activities for youth and families. I Can Relate is produced by Fredcast. Think, Speak, Act.
Welcome back to this new season of I Can Relate, a podcast for teens, about teens, and by teens. Today, I'm Ellie, and I'm a senior.
I'm Connor. I'm a senior.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Charlie. I'm a junior.
And today we're going to be talking about what it's like being a senior and the realities of how hard it is. Growing up, I always had one dream. I wanted to be just like my dad and my aunt, and I wanted to play softball. I started out when I was 4. I spent countless hours, probably 10 a week, just at the field, in the batting cage, swinging balls, throwing, trying to be the best that I can be because I wanted to live up to that dream. And when I got to high school, I had a really big realization when I made our freshman team because it wasn't really what I wanted. But through so many hours and just working with my coaches, I improved to a level that I never thought I could be at. So my next year, as a sophomore, I was moved up to JV, and I got the opportunity at the end of the season to go to postseason, where we eventually won the Missouri State Championship. Getting the ring and feeling like so in the limelight about the sport that I had put so much effort into for basically my entire life, and what was at the time like my number one priority in my life, was such a big just a gift, because I had never felt so like admired for what I had put so much time into, and never again have I really ever felt that moved by an experience. But going into my junior year, we didn't really bounce back after winning state. Everything was pretty much a mess, and we'd ended up losing right after we won districts, and we didn't even go to the Final Four. It really made me question whether I wanted to put that much time and that much energy into my sport anymore, since I knew I wouldn't be pursuing it in college just because of the lifestyle that is, and it didn't fit me at the time. So I spent the next year or so basically contemplating if I wanted to come back, and if I wanted to, miss all the school and miss all of that time and put like basically everything I had back into softball. And so I finally decided, after talking with my coaches about, the opportunity to manage, that I was going to manage baseball for my school. So in that spring of my junior year, managing baseball really changed my life. I realized that sports management and sports broadcasting and just the production of it all, that's really what I wanted to do, and that's what set me on my current career path. And with that realization, I knew I didn't want to play again. That wasn't the capacity that I wanted to put myself into softball anymore. I wanted to manage. That was my big dream. And so that following, that summer, I sat down with my coach, and he basically told me that there was always going to be a spot for me on that team, no matter what I did, whether I decided to come back for my senior year and play that season, or if I wanted to come back and manage and be with that family. Come July, I had made the decision. I was final. I wasn't going to play. I was going to manage. I was going to be on the bench, but I was still going to be with my family. Sent my coaches a long text, and they told me no. I was shut down from returning to a family who I'd spent so long with, 4 years of my life at this point, so many hours, road trips, sleepovers, everything. And they told me no. They didn't want me. They turned me down. They turned me away. And dealing with that was hard. I was torn apart the entire next week, and I tried to hide it because being vulnerable is not something I'm used to. But I think in the end, it taught me that, sometimes things are circumstantial, and it really wasn't about me. And I need to remember that, because it's not only about me, it's about everybody. And obviously I still wonder why, because I never got the why. I just got the no. And so dealing with that has been very hard. But I still have a family and I still have other places where I've now started putting more time and energy into. I'm going back to baseball. I'm looking into continuing that. I've spent more time putting effort into other things, and closing that chapter of my life has been very, very difficult. But I mean, that's how life is sometimes, is that you just have to move on from a chapter and start something new.
I mean, my personal experience, especially with like baseball and everything, I mean, I'm still like continuing and everything, but I know at one point I'm gonna get that no, and it's like it's a fearful thing, and you just never know when it's gonna happen, and you know, it's not a great feeling at all.
Vulnerability is an interesting thing. You had mentioned that earlier on in that story, how you were not used to being vulnerable, and that kind of triggered something in the back of my head. That is something I have always struggled with, something I think many of us, almost all of us this age, this point of our lives, are dealing with. A while back, the thought popped into my head. I've always been scared of growing up, of turning into an adult, and I thought about how one is just expected to immediately transition to that level of maturity, that level of action, the ability to do all the things that an adult is expected to do with the snap of your fingers. And I didn't quite know how to handle that thought. Again, that struggle with vulnerability, I couldn't open up about it. I just kind of moved on,
Yeah, I think it's really hard just because you have no choice when you have to be vulnerable in that sense. Like, when we graduate from, like, elementary school and middle school and eventually high school, like, that date is set. Like, we are graduating, and that's it. Like, on that day, like, you do not come back unless, I mean, you're a super senior, but, I mean, you have no choice in moving that. That is just a day that, for some people, is really daunting, and for some people is kind of exciting. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you still have no control over it.
Yeah.
No, I think definitely like I've had a lot of siblings and then like family who are just like 5 years older than me, 6 years, and it's like they're graduated college, and then like that's not even that far away, and that's a high school year, 4 years away of pursuing my career and everything, and it's a big step as a senior, I feel like. And then I agree, like especially with the date thing. I mean, once you turn like 18, 17, like you're done. You can't be a child anymore. You have to go off and grow up. And if you're ready for it, you're ready for it. If you're not, you're not. You don't get to decide.
I think the big problem about it is that it's so stereotyped that we're expected to be ready for it. Like, our teachers and our parents and everybody around us spend so much time, like, babying us, or like then preparing us, and like they spend all of this energy into us just for us to grow up and be ready to just go off and do our own thing, and they expect us to be able to fly and be okay with it. But they never really are like if you ever hear about people taking like a gap year, like that is frowned upon. Yeah. Or if you even don't go to college and you go straight into a career, or even like some trade schools and stuff, that's not really like what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to go get like this like super high paying job after college, and you're supposed to start a family. And it's just so much expectation that you're supposed to do life in this certain amount of steps, and it's supposed to happen at this point and when you're this old. That, I mean, it can be really hard because I mean, saying that you don't even want that, or if you want something different, like that in itself is vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like the social norm is really like bad about that. Like, because I know a lot of people who don't even want to go to college and just want to work and just go straight into the workforce. And it's just like, I feel like it needs to be more normalized for people, because you can make a good living off of just doing what you want and doing and I just think that people need to, like, if they don't want to go to school for 4 more years, if they just want to like have fun for a little bit and then just go work and do what they enjoy and do what they love, it just needs to be more normalized, and you don't have to go to college.
Yeah. I think that mentality has existed for as long as universities have existed, in the Middle Ages, when churches, I believe, started sprouting up those places, it was expected that going to a university would mean you having the best life possible. It was either that or living poor or your parents sending you to a monastery. And I think over millennia, that mentality has stuck in our mindset that college is the one way to have the best life possible. But France no longer has a king. Germany is one nation now. Things have changed, and so should that attitude.
Yeah, it's not even just college. Like, as a high school senior, like, it's senior year, period. It is supposed to be the most fun, the most everything that high school can be. Like, we spent freshman year looking up to the senior class, sophomore year looking up to the senior class, junior year looking up to the senior class, and everything that it had to offer. Like, classes are easier, we don't test as much, like, we have like some days off that not everybody else gets, and then obviously we graduate early, so we're out of school earlier. And with that, you walk into it expecting it to be like all of this and nothing bad, and that expectation is, I mean, it's kind of bad. It's toxic in a way, because then you are making decisions based off of, oh, what will the ideal senior life look like? Like, let me base my decisions and my choices and like my classes off of what the ideal senior life should be. Like, my senior year should be easy, when in reality, like, not everybody's senior year is going to look the same. Like, I know specifically for me, like, my senior year has been kind of stressful. A lot of stuff has changed for me in my life. Like, I'm not playing softball. I haven't touched it. Like, not doing a fall sport is weird. I'm at school 24/7. I take 7 classes. Most seniors take half of the day off.
No, I definitely agree with that. Like, I have so many friends who just leave school early or in the middle of the day, and they get 3 hours off in between. I'm just like, I just feel like, I mean, I'm 7 hours every day, and it's like the same. It's just the same thing over and over again. And like, because I definitely talked to a lot of seniors last year, and I mean, being an athlete, admission requirement is 6 hours a day, and everybody else, they get 4 hours, first 4 hours of the day, then done, or sleep in for 2 of the hours and then come to school. And just for me, it's just like, you have to do that. And then, I mean, I just think that should really be changed and everything. But
are you jealous of that at all?
Like, a little bit. I mean, it'd be nice just to go to like Quip Trip or go to a Chick-fil-A in the middle of the day for lunch instead of school lunch, but
I just think it's interesting that, like, I mean, we do kind of like have that option, but like, I mean, I still love what I do. Like, I still love going to school, I think. And like, I mean, I say it's stressful, but my ideal senior year is doing what I am doing, because I like the leadership position that I'm in right now, because I stay for most of the day to teach like underclassmen about what it's like to be in our classes and stuff, and specifically like media, because that's what I want to do.
Going back to about graduating early, like every single year, it's like seniors get out early. They're so lucky. I mean, even last year, like, I took an off-campus class, so I was with a lot of seniors, and they end the school early, and I'm like, just, they're so lucky. They get their summer break early, but it's over. They can't go back to high school. They have to go to college. They have to go off and do a career.
Yeah, the other thing about senior year that people don't think about is when we're not at school taking classes, we are at home writing page-long college essays and stressing about, does my resume look good enough? Which, that is ridiculous, but that's what I was doing last week. So I think a lot of stress, like, initially when you're in high school, a lot of stress comes from your classes and like your friends, or like what's the like weekly drama going on. But as a senior, like, moving away from that and maturing from that is stressing about like, oh, like, how am I going to pay for gas this week? Or how am I going to get enough money to pay for like scholarships and stuff? And you really do start thinking about more of like, not the material things, but more about the tangible things. Like, where am I going to live in college? Who am I going to live with in college? Like, which dorm do I pick? Is it important to go to a college with this? And there's a lot of big life-changing decisions that become very stressful, because I mean, people say, like, when you choose where you go to college and you choose what you're doing, I mean, to a sense, you're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, for me, like, I haven't played video games. I mean, I was talking to my friend today, and it's like, we were talking, I mean, I have time, but it's just like, I have so many other things I worry about, and the last thing it is just to, like, sit down and relax and just play video games with my friends. I mean, there's just so much more stuff to think about and so many more important things that you have to, like, just think about. I mean, I'm looking for a job, and you got to write all those essays and worry about scholarships, and you want to push it, push it, push it. I mean, that's just me because I'm a procrastinator, but like, you don't want to think about it sometimes. All you want to do is just sit there and do nothing sometimes, but you can't.
It's really hard to learn to balance, but I think that's the good thing that transitioning throughout high school does, is that it does teach you, like, what it's like to go through, like, different stages of your life. Because as a freshman, you're obviously, like, you're more worried about, like, who your friends are. And then in sophomore year, you're more worried about, like, setting up the rest of your high school life. Junior year is more, like, heavy classes, like, hard tests. And then, I mean, senior year is, like, learning to prepare for the next step of your life. And I think that it's something that, like, not everybody experiences, like, those milestones of, like, getting married, having a child, graduating college, but everybody experiences graduating high school. So to that extent, high school is really your first, like, welcome into a positive change in your life.
I mean, I even think, like, because, there are some people who have to drop out and everything. But, like, I feel like it's the same thing as graduating, because it's like, that's your decision. I mean, in that aspect, and it's like, that's your first step into the workforce, or the next step into your education career and everything.
Do you guys feel like adulting is graduating high school? Like, is that the same day?
Almost, yeah. I think, like, that is the point where you are no longer that person, the high school student. You're just you now, whatever that means. There are no more labels to apply. You're out of school, out of whatever community you had built in that school. You're on your own, and as terrifying as that is, it's, at least in theory, a bit freeing.
Yeah, kind of about labels. I think that something that, like, becoming a senior and, like, graduating and stuff has taught me is that, like, I really hardcore label myself. Like, I was a softball player. Still am technically a state champion softball player. I am, like, the editor of, like, our journalism stuff. Like, I hardcore label myself. Like, the way I define myself or the way I introduce myself is, this is who I am and this is what I do, period. And that's it. Like, I don't really, like, talk about, like, who I am outside of, like, my work, because the work that I put into every, like, aspect of my life, as in, like my classes or, like, my extra, like, outside things, that is the stuff that I'm prideful in, and that's how I choose to, like, introduce myself to everybody, I feel like.
Well, definitely, I can kind of agree, because for me, like, everybody's like, oh, you look like a baseball player. Oh, you talk like a baseball player. Oh, you're probably a baseball player. Because I'll tell them, I'll be like, well, because they ask and everything, you play any sports? I'll be like, yeah, I play baseball. Like, oh, I could have guessed that. And just, like, for me, I mean, I've had also people be like, because I played varsity my junior year, and I was in a class with a bunch of sophomores, and, like, nobody knew that I played varsity. And, I mean, I told them, and they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I play baseball. And I don't know. I can agree with the labels, but, like, I mean, me personally never label myself as, oh, I do this, this, and this. I was more just like a go with the flow.
Would you rather have the label and be judged based off what people know, or just, like, people not even know?
I don't know. Me personally, I don't really care about that stuff. Like, I'm just Connor. Like, I don't care if you don't think I'm varsity baseball player.
Hi, Connor.
You think I'm a nerd. Like, I don't really care about their opinions. I mean, that's my personal preference.
So, my background is in writing, and when I think about that, the best backstory for a character is one that you don't just lay out immediately in the pilot. You give more and more information about this person gradually as the series,
like
the movie.
layering.
Yeah, layering. You start out just a name and what your character can do. You introduce more stuff, and I believe that's a lot like how at least I should live. Not to speak for anyone else, but people don't need to know everything about me immediately. When teachers do that get to know you stuff, I always like say the absolute bare minimum about myself, and everything else you will learn in class, in person, because that's how it should work.
I mean, that's also just life. Like, we grow layers as, like, we grow.
Yeah.
Like, my plan right now is my plan. That's it. It's a plan. It's not what's going to happen. I could go to college or I could graduate and completely change my mind about what I want to do and who I want to be. So I think that while we have this, like certain identity of ourselves, or like initial identity, it's going to grow and it's going to change, and it definitely will get deeper and more layered as we grow and we learn new things.
Well, I mean, I wanted to be like an engineer since I was in 7th grade when I took an engineering class in my middle school. And like I even mentioned to my mom, which I'm not thinking about switching majors at all during college, but I mentioned to my mom, I was like, well, I mean, I could always switch, or like, what if I don't become an engineer? And she acted like it was the end of the world. And I feel like everybody just like says that you need to know what you want to be in the next step, and I just disagree. I feel like, I mean, even going into college, I don't even know what engineer I want to be. I want to explore. I want to discover. I want to learn. I mean,
but like that's just it. Like in high school, we're treated like we are still kids, but when we're seniors, and especially second semester of senior year, we are expected to know exactly what we're doing and where we're going and what's going to happen with our lives. Like 2 weeks ago, I got hall monitored as an 18-year-old in my high school. Hall monitored. Like an administrator told me I couldn't walk in the hallway. And I mean, that really like made me realize just how much more restraint we have in high school, and that we kind of have a lens of what the future is going to look like based off of that. We've had so many rules, and once we get to college and we like do whatever we're doing past that, we have no rules. Like everything is up to us and every decision is our own. And I think that is really what the lesson out of growing out of high school is.
It's going back to the idea of you're expected to become an adult at the snap of the fingers, right? Where's the transition supposed to be? How are we supposed to get to that point where we are ready to become adults? Is it just supposed to happen immediately, or when are we supposed to transition to being an adult?
no, I agree. Like especially as senior year, because I've had like me and my friends at a football game, we were like barely, like we were just pushing around, playing around or whatever before the game was starting, and this administrator comes like, you guys need to stop, your seniors, you need to, be role models and everything. But then like I feel like everything's so structured. I mean, obviously when you're a senior, you're supposed to be a role model for the younger. But I mean,
But why are we the role models?
Yeah, when you guys structure everything, you guys tell us what to do every single day, and it's just kind of like, I mean, you give us no freedom. Why should we be the role models for everybody when we don't get to act like an adult?
Senior year is so hyped up for no reason.
Yeah.
It's good and it's fun, but it is what you make of it, and it's what you're given. Like, we can only do so much, and we can only handle so much. And like Charlie, like you were saying, without that transition, even from going from junior year to senior year, or from anything, honestly, without that transition and without that kind of like empathy from the adults in our lives, it's so difficult and it's so hard to be able to be okay with the change.
Well, definitely for me, like in like even a baseball huddle at the end of the practice or whatever, like you got to say 1, 2, 3, and then everybody says Tigers, or yeah. And for me, it's just like you jump from being a junior, you're just fresh. Most people just fresh varsity, and then after the year, you're senior. You have to lead everybody. You have to be the top dog. You have to be most responsible. You have to be perfect. You have to be a perfect leader. I mean, even more of a leader than the coach, in my opinion. The coach is there to structure practice, but you're there to get everybody motivated. And for me, it's just like they just throw you in. and just see if you succeed.
Dang, what was I gonna say? One of you guys go. I'll come back to me.
I think the big thing to take away from it is just it's not perfect. Life's not perfect. And people say all the time life is not perfect. So why are we pretending that senior year is supposed to be perfect?
Yeah, I also think like especially just like you're not alone. I mean, it feels like I've had so many low points where I'm just like feel like you're the only person going through it and the only person experiencing, but everybody is. There's another senior varsity baseball player. There's another senior theater person. I mean, supposed to lead everybody. Like everybody is going through it. There's thousands of kids going through the same thing you are.
Just I think it's important to not only be like that whole like idea of like you're not alone because you're not, but like when you get through it, and you will get through it, be so proud of yourself, because it honestly is the little accomplishments in life that change you and make you better and make you a stronger person.
The little things always boil up to something much bigger, you know? The smallest achievements, whether it be waking up and getting the right song going as you get ready. Left Hand Free by Alt J, by the way, great song. Or just finally finishing a project you have been working on for the past 1, maybe 2 years that is absolutely based on personal experience. Those little things always combine and lead to something more, lead to you becoming better.
However you want. You're in charge. Be an adult, damn it.
We're keeping that in, by the way.
Yeah, I think we should. I think from my perspective as somebody who is very confident being in charge and like taking the lead and being the person who has to be strong for everybody else, it's nice to sit down and know that I'm not alone in feeling that, because sometimes it's nice to admit that I don't have it all together. And like, you know, there are times where I'm pulling my hair out and I want to cry because things just aren't going my way. And so I think talking about my perspective and my issues with being vulnerable has really changed me a lot, to know that it's okay, that not everything in my life is going to work out the way I want it to.
I think getting like a different perspective and kind of know that like each different person, like everybody's a little different every way, but each person's going for this end goal and the same goal of wanting to be successful in their past, in their future. And then the biggest thing is once you get over the hump, it's always worth it. You even just feeling better about yourself, it is always worth it.
What was I going to... The second time this episode. Again, back to the vulnerability idea, you know, it's okay to talk. The entire point of this show is spending 30 minutes talking about whatever comes to mind, right? Because you need to. You need to put it out somewhere to... And with this format, one needs to let others know, the listeners, the audience, what have you, that it's okay to open up. Not just every once in a while, but whenever you need to. Because that is what is necessary. It's that water hitting a dam, right? There's too much water. It's going to go over, you know? I did that one time in Cities Skylines, flooded the southern end of a city. Hydroelectricity. Man.
I think being content to just talk about everything is a big thing, I feel like. Because people don't feel like they can talk about subjects, and it's more you have to keep it in yourself. I just feel like that's the big thing.
Yeah, and it's okay to talk about it. Like,
yeah. You're not going to get in trouble. You know, I mean, it's high school. You're always going to get in trouble for something.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, thanks, Connor. Thanks, Charlie. I think that's where we're going to leave this episode of I Can Relate. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I'm Ellie.
I'm Connor.
I'm Charlie.
And thank you for listening to this episode of I Can Relate.
Cheers.
Sure.